the media defending it or even blaming the Trump supporters, women being beaten by crowds of men. This is happening all over the country now. And this is the new sacrament. And I wonder why the dishonor is what they want to do. It's not like they beat up a few women. They target women. What is that?
Well, in Berkeley itself, I was doing some research on this. There are, and who knows who the funders are, and this is where independent journalists and investigators come into play here. But there's a meeting place. It's at 4799 Shattuck Avenue in Oakland, California. It's a major street. It's called Omni Commons, and they have these infiltrators, these provocateurs have these little spaces where they can go and plot out their street theater and little actions. We need to find out who's behind Omni, O-M-N-I Commons, as well as other institutions. I also see that the Berkeley School District is, if not subsidizing, but directly propagandizing a new generation of K through 12 children in the Berkeley area and the entire East Bay. There was this one teacher there. Her name is, let's see, what is her name? Falarda, I think her name is. And she definitely looks like one of these Nancy Pelosi / Maxine Waters mind-controlled bat-esque crazy type demonstrator. But she's a teacher there. And so she's exposing the K through 12 students to her techno-authoritarian propaganda. I saw her pop up at the demonstration in the capital city of Sacramento, California, with a fake bandage on her head. Supposedly she was there to fight neo-Nazis who were probably, who knows, they were probably not neo-Nazis, they were probably provocateurs themselves. They might have been part of the Black Bloc. And then recently at last Wednesday at the Berkeley riots, she shows up again. And the reason I mention this is because, and this is somewhat speculative, you know, we can do this. We can kind of put out these hypotheses based on what we already know about decades and decades of mind control systems and programs, much of which, by the way, as I stated before, were concentrated in the East Bay. But she and others of a certain subset within the Asian American community, most specifically, I'll say it, even though the majority are great, nice, hardworking, intelligent, and upright Christian people. And I'm talking about Filipino Americans. I think they're coming out of the Alameda Naval Base. They are the products of what colloquially is known as the Super Soldier Program. And what's happened is that they come out of a total Navy family of totally administered life, from meals to healthcare to education. And there's this new generation of immigrant naval personnel of Filipino American heritage who got to the United States through their military service, who are now at the core of this so-called street actions that we're seeing in the East Bay and in Northern California. And
so what you're saying is you're identifying leaders that you know have a Navy background, which just means a government background.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the deep Navy. It's not the ordinary Navy that we know and love, and that's defending American sovereignty. But there's a subset.
The shadow Navy.
Yes, exactly. As you know, that within any institution, there's always a shadow entity within at the very top. So they're coming out of Alameda, I think, and how I came upon this insight is through the work of a Filipino-American multi-generational Navy family person by the name of James Bartley. So your viewers might want to check out his work. And he goes into more detail than I'm able to. He goes into great detail on how this has played out in his own life. And now we're seeing a larger rollout.
Remember the guy at the Naval Yard saying, you know, this is my ELF weapon or whatever? Exactly, yeah. And you see the guy that was at the Fort Hood shooting, he was a Hassan.
Pakistani American. He was a medical doctor, and he also, so we're seeing.
Well, bottom line, 2 years the CIA knew what he was planning and didn't stop it. And he was reportedly getting orders online. They just didn't stop it. So, and there's definitely something going on here. Well, I mean, pulling back from this, where do you see all the insanity going? Because they're only intensifying. What's the end game of the controllers? Because it is mind control to be able to get a bunch of people to go beat up women.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch
where do you see it going? I mean, where do you see these political movements going now that they're into this call for violence, call to kill Trump? What are your big picture concerns?
Well, I'm afraid there are going to be killings that takes place on the in the same way we saw Charlie Hebdo in Paris, which
Well, what do you
from
think of
what
them
I
exactly organizing the left into fight clubs to prepare to go out and attack and kill people all over the United States? I mean, they have, here's what I don't get. You start a fight with 100 million gun owners. You start a fight with the military that's awake to what's happening and some of the police that are awake. I mean, it just sounds like they're setting them up. But then I see Soros has succeeded in other countries with this. So I see his confidence. Or is it really a plan to set up the left? But then I see the legitimate attacks on Trump. They really tried to beat him. So I think they've gone crazy themselves. I don't, look, George Soros' son, as you know, goes to Berkeley there.
Yes, he's a graduate student there. And from what I understand, he's there primarily to carry forth the agenda for the next generation, which is a fake left, liberal, progressive.
Sure, well, there's no doubt UC Berkeley, but also California state schools are the tip of the spear, except for like Harvard and MIT. I mean, why do you think California's been chosen as the admitted testing ground, the development? I mean, they're putting all their eggs in that basket right now.
Well, as I stated before, it's because the globalists, the bankers, want to retard, if not completely derail, the Eurasianist economic engine of growth, the region that Alexander Dugin has and others.
I get it. So California is a link into Asia. They want to create a disease in California that culturally spreads through Hollywood. And that's why they want the Chinese to buy up Hollywood.
Absolutely. I mean, the university. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No. Talk about the Eurasia movement. Talk about that.
Well, at its founding, the Skull and Bonesmen who founded the University of California in Berkeley, which was just a sleepy little town at the time, it was part of a conscious process to cite the university to point to Asia. They knew this in the latter part of the 19th century. You know, we're talking about the Spanish-American War, and they were pointed specifically at...
Sure, they just grabbed the Philippines. They just got in the coaling stations.
Exactly. And Hawaii, of course, right, which was a territory. So this is the engine of American and global rejuvenation and renaissance, the Eurasianist concept. We're seeing it. It's called the Silk Road economy. They're building train lines going from Southeast Asia all the way to Tehran, and you can take the ferry to London.
So that is the new Renaissance.
Oh, yes, it's the Earth Island. And that's the good news for these young people that we're going to deprogram, because they do not see...
Because you can be part of the real economy and not be sabotaged. The globalists want to sabotage you because you're going to be powerful in the new economy.
Precisely. They're hobbling you. They're starving you, just like the serfs of medieval Russia or Japan, where you're like 1 foot smaller and 50 pounds lighter than the warrior class of people. And you don't even look them in the eye or they will cut your head off, right?
Yes.
I mean, they want, these globalists want a neo-feudal society. In order to achieve that, they have to stunt the economy.
And by the way, neo-feudalism has been, every culture was the same. It's like they're trying to put us back, not forward. They're the opposite of progressives.
It's